You have felt it, even if you've never said it out loud, even if you disguise it when someone asks, you know. You recognized this person the moment you saw them. It wasn't attraction, it wasn't excitement, it was remembrance. Your body might not understand, but your soul recognized it immediately. It was like an echo, like coming home after being lost for too long. This person didn't just appear now, they have returned. Because you both belong to each other in another time, and no matter how many lives pass, you always come back. Even if the names change, even if the body is different, even if the story starts over from scratch, there's something between you that doesn't die, doesn't fade away, doesn't tire, even when it hurts. That's why you try to pull away but can't. That's why you say it's over, but hope. That's why even in silence you still feel, still call, still return. This love has no beginning, nor end. It just changes form. But it's still there, hidden in what you don't say, in what you feel but deny, in what you live quietly but can't forget. It's not just love. It's soul. It's a past that hasn't passed. It's something greater than this life. You realize this. Even when you pretend you don't, you tried to move on, tried to erase, forget, deny, tried to convince yourself that it was just another person, just another passion that passed, just another bond that broke, just another story that ends like so many others. But it didn't end. You know, you feel. There's something that remains even when you turn away, even when time passes, even when no one else sees. It's a silent but persistent presence, a space inside you that only this person occupies, and it continues to wait. Even when you swear you're no longer waiting. It's not nostalgia, it's not attachment, it's not neediness. It's something else, it's denser, older, deeper. You didn't choose to feel this, it chose you. And since then, nothing has been light. No other gaze can last. No other touch is complete. No other hug silences what this love screams inside you. You think you're going crazy or too sensitive or too emotional, but that's not it, you just realized. You recognize something that many go their whole lives without acknowledging. This love wasn't born here. It just showed up again, at the right moment, at the exact time when the soul was ready to remember. You remember, even without having lived it. You acknowledge it, even without knowing why. And that's what scares you, because it doesn't make sense. There's no control. There are no guarantees. There's only that silent certainty that keeps crossing you without asking for permission. This person is mine, even if they're not here. And you try to explain it to yourself. You try to rationalize. You try to convince yourself that it's an exaggeration, a fantasy, romanticism. But all of that crumbles the moment you hear that voice, or read that old message, or smell that scent, or dream. Ah, the dreams. You wake up with your heart racing, as if you've returned from somewhere you never knew existed, but that you feel is home. And that's when everything comes back. Everything you try to erase, everything you hide, it comes back like a tide, sweeping everything away. This love has no body, it has no fixed home. It lives where the soul lives, in the spaces where time doesn't reach. That's why it's still there. Even after so many absences, so many resignations, so many broken promises. You think, it doesn't make sense, it should have passed, it should have ended. But it hasn't ended. And it won't end, because this love doesn't belong to this life. You feel it when you close your eyes and silence comes, when you don't have to explain it to anyone, because inside you, everything already knows. This person, they carry part of you, even without knowing, even without deserving, even without being here. No matter the distance, the absence, the time, the connection doesn't disappear. It transforms, it camouflages, but it remains alive. You can feel it when something happens to her, even without seeing, you know. Even without speaking, you notice. You can feel it when her heart calls out to you, even if she never says it, even if she's with someone else, and that's what tears you apart. Because you don't want to carry this alone anymore. You don't want to keep remembering something she has already forgotten, or pretends to forget, or is too afraid to admit. But still, you remain there, with an open heart, wounded, but loyal. Because deep down where no one can see, you still believe, not in just any happy ending, but in a reunion, in a cycle closing, in a hug that heals everything. Because this story, it began long before you were born, and it doesn't end with a goodbye. This story spans centuries, faces lives, survives death. It is made of returns, and you feel that it's still going to happen. Even when you don't know how, even when everything seems impossible, you feel that there's still something to be lived, said, resolved. This feeling of something incomplete isn't longing. It's memory, a memory that your soul carries, and little by little makes you remember. Do you realize? This love isn't measured by logic. It can't be compared, it can't be bargained. It simply is. And it won't leave just because you want it to. Not because life pushes. Not because someone new has appeared. That's why you try to move on, but you're never whole. A part of you always stays. Even when you say it doesn't. Even when you try to love someone else. Even when you smile so no one worries. That part knows. That part doesn't lie, that part persists. Because that part belongs. Have you ever felt this? Comment below. I needed to hear this. When was the first time you realized this love was different? Let me know in the comments. And if your heart is still there, awake, read it again, slowly, with your eyes closed. Maybe you'll find some part of yourself that's also waiting for him or her to remember too, because it doesn't matter how long it takes. Sooner or later, souls that belong together recognize each other, even if they get lost, even if they break, even if they live 1,000 different lives. At the right moment, at the exact minute, in the invisible fold of time, they look at each other again, and nothing more needs to be said. Have you ever wondered why, even after so much time, it still hurts? Not that piercing pain, not the longing that brings tears. It's something else. It's like a small sting that quietly lives, but never disappears. It stays with you. On the good days. On the days when you swear you've moved on. In the moments when you even feel whole again, and then just one gesture, one memory, any coincidence, and everything comes rushing back. It doesn't matter how far you've walked. It's as if a part of you is still there, at the same point where everything stopped. Waiting. Waiting for that door to open. Waiting for him to say what he never had the courage to. Waiting for the universe, for the first time, to align with you. You don't talk about it. Because it's exhausting. Because it hurts. Because no one understands. And also because you don't want to seem weak, or trapped, or deluded. But the truth is, there's a part of you that doesn't know how to move on without first going back. Back to something that can't be explained. To something that had no end. To something that had no name, but had a soul. Have you ever stopped to wonder how many times this love has silently saved you? How many times thinking of that person kept you from giving up? How many times was this feeling what kept you standing when everything else fell apart? Even when hurt, this love was a refuge. Even in absence, it made you remember what it truly means to feel. Even if it seemed unfair, it gave you something no one else did: depth. Because after this love, nothing else has felt superficial. Nothing else has been fleeting. You stopped accepting less than soul, less than true presence, less than a shiver. You want someone who looks inside. Let me perceive you in the spaces between the lines. Let me read you without words. You want that kind of love that doesn't need proof, because it already lives in your skin. But then you look around and find nothing. You try to make room for other people, but no one fits where that person resides in you. And then comes the fear. Will I ever love someone like that again? Have you ever asked yourself that in silence, with tears welling in your eyes, with your heart feeling tight? And the answer tears you apart. Maybe not, because some loves are unique. They are encounters marked by something greater. They are bonds that don't repeat. They merely reactivate. You might live other stories. You might fall in love again, but nothing will touch the same place, that place where he or she remained and is still there. You know this because you feel it. And no matter how hard you try to explain, no one understands, because it's not meant to be understood. It's meant to be remembered. That love has no justification. It holds memories. And the pain you feel isn't because it's over. It's because it's still happening, just in another dimension. a part of you has already reunited with him. Even though the bodies are still apart, do you feel it? Do you notice? It's not an illusion, it's not an exaggeration. It's a soul calling to a soul. It's life trying to stitch together something that was interrupted, but was never truly broken. That's why you dream of him. That's why you feel her presence. That's why you get emotional out of nowhere. Because this love vibrates, breathes, waits, and you feel it. Even when you say you don't, even when you pretend you don't. Maybe this person feels it too, but is trapped in fear, in the mind, in guilt, in doubt. But the bond exists, the energy flows, the tie pulses. You feel it. You've always felt it. You just didn't know how to name it. Until now. If what you feel doesn't fade away, maybe it never will. But this isn't a prison. It's active memory. It's a sign that something greater is moving, behind time, beyond appearances. And you don't need to deny it anymore. You can honor this love, even in silence, even when alone. Even if the other person isn't ready, you don't need validation to feel what you feel, nor permission to love the way you love. You just need to allow it. To allow that love to transform you, to reveal you, to teach you, even if it hurts, even if it's lacking, even if it never returns. Because it was once yours, it is yours, and it continues to be, even if you're no longer together. Because this story, it is still being written. Do you realize that? And if you've made it this far, it wasn't by chance. Maybe your soul has been asking to remember. Maybe it's time to stop running from this insistent feeling. You've gone through phases. You've had days when you swore you felt nothing anymore. Days when you even managed to smile, wish well, say, it was better this way. But there were also those other days. The days that no one sees. The days when you lie down and feel the emptiness. The days when the absence weighs more than the presence of anyone else. And you think, am I being foolish? Am I insisting on something that exists only in my head? But then a dream comes, a song, a memory that bursts forth from nowhere, and you return. You go back to him. You go back to her. You return to everything that resides within you, even without permission. You try to force that door shut, but what is real cannot be locked away, cannot be erased. You may silence it, but deep inside, in the place where what is real resides, that connection still screams. Because what you lived, or did not live but felt, was more than a moment. It was more than romance. It was a meeting of souls. And that does not fade. It doesn't get lost. It only transforms. Do you realize that this love changed the way you look at the world? After it, you no longer accept the superficial. You can't stand lukewarm people anymore. You can't tolerate empty words. You need truth, you need presence, you need intensity. You need something that sees you from within and stays. And it all began in that moment when you looked at each other. Do you remember? It wasn't just any glance. It was a kind of opening. As if something had torn inside of you. As if a part of you was saying, this is it. Maybe he felt it too. Maybe she disguised it. But something happened there, something that no one saw but you never forgot. And ever since then, you carry it. Even when you say you don't, even when you try, even when you're almost successful. But there's always something missing. Missing him, missing her, missing what you both couldn't live. And maybe that's the cruelest part, to know that it was real but it wasn't meant to be. To know that the feeling existed, but circumstances didn't help. But fears won, but time didn't cooperate. You wonder, why? Why was this given to you if it wasn't supposed to happen? Why feel so much if it was meant to be lost? Why notice someone so deeply if it was meant to become the past? But what if it's not the past, and what if this story just hit pause? And what if this pause is part of the journey? Have you thought about that? Have you considered that maybe love continues? Even in silence, even without contact, even without a happy ending? Because true love, it doesn't depend on the ending. It proves itself in the middle, in the pain, in the absence, in the waiting. That love taught you about depth. It taught you about giving. It taught you about yourself. And even if it doesn't come back, you won't be the same anymore. Do you realize that? The person you were before this love, it no longer exists. Because it broke you. But it also revealed you. It took away your ground, but it showed you where your roots are. It took away your peace, but it gave you soul. And soul, is everything. You can keep saying you've moved on. You can go on with your life. You might even love again, but deep down in that place no one touches, that person still lives. And that's okay. It's not weakness. It's not illusion. It's spiritual memory. It's ancient love. It's an interrupted reunion. It's life that keeps trying to mend what time has undone. You don't need to explain this to anyone, or prove it, or justify it. Just feel and acknowledge and allow. If this text has reached you, it's for a reason. Perhaps it's because this person is feeling it too, even without speaking, even without showing up, even while trying to move on. But they are. And when two souls call out to each other, sooner or later, something happens. Maybe a word, maybe a reunion, maybe just the silent certainty that love was never in vain. If this touched you in any way, share it with someone who needs to feel this too. Subscribe to the channel to keep receiving messages that speak directly to your soul. Leave a like, comment on what you feel about this kind of love, and come back here whenever you need to remember who you are.